More on this, let's bring in David Strom. He's an associate editor over at Hot Air. David, good to have you back with us.
Always a pleasure, Vince.
So nobody likes the Democrats, and their playbook is let's just keep doing the same thing?
I think even more than that. I think the consensus among the activist class is that they need to double down. Now, I tend to distinguish between the sort of political operatives for whom this is a business and the activist class, which, basically drives the narrative of the Democratic Party. And I think that the people who really want to win elections know they're in deep trouble, but they've hitched their wagon to truly insane people.
Yeah, but the people that from this audio, these are the people who are all vying to become the next chairperson of the DNC.
Yep.
That's the group that's supposed to win elections. In other words, they should have the clearest eyes and be less radical. And yet, I'm not hearing that. In fact, I was clicking through this hours-long hearing, and there were all sorts of ridiculous moments. Here's one, for example, where some random DNC person asks, how are they going to include more transgender people in their operations?
Okay, the next person is Carol Abney, who is a Tennessee DNC member. Go ahead, Carol.
We all know that red states need extra help, so my question is for all of you. For the past 16 years, the transgender community has only gotten one at-large seat each time. Will you pledge to appoint more than one transgender person to an at-large seat, and will you commit to making sure those appointments reflect the gender and ethnic diversity of the transgender community?
I mean, what? They are so far off, David, from addressing, what is the thing that they keep talking about? The price of eggs? I don't think this has anything to do with that.
Yeah, well, which tells you that the people, the inmates are running the asylum. Yes, these people are supposed to be concerned about winning elections, but they aren't, which is what's panicking the consultant class. Although for them, all they need is the gravy train. I think what we're seeing here is what happened to the Labour Party for a long time in the UK, which is just absolute capture by the activist class, and who are fringe. I mean, these are really fringe people, but they're the ground troops. They're the people who have control over what the DNC does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an incredible problem that the Democrats have. And what's happened is that even Democrat elected officials who are so heavily concentrated in blue states are just as crazy.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. One of the questions last night came from Simone Sanders, longtime Democrat activist, MSNBC person, who pointed out that there was at least one ad in particular that caught the Democrats completely flat-footed during Kamala Harris's ill-fated campaign. Here is the ad. This is the ad she's referring to.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
It's hard to believe, but it's true. Even the liberal media was shocked Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners and illegal aliens.
Every transgender inmate would have access.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump is for you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
That ad running like crazy because it was so devastating and effective. Here's Simone Sanders asking the panel about it last night.
Because I want to follow up on something that Jonathan is touching on, and I want to ask you all a very specific question. You've all talked about the messaging, Big Tent, completely understand that. But there are some very specific targeted attacks that Democrats that has been lobbed on Democrats, particularly in this last cycle, and I don't think they'll be letting up anytime soon. In October of 2024, A large part, about 1/3 of Trump's advertising budget, went specifically to this one ad. It was about gender-changing surgeries for a small number of transgender, incarcerated, undocumented immigrants. These particular ads ended with the line, "Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you." Governor O'Malley, I want to start with you. How should Democrats respond to this attack?
We need to respond forcefully. We need to respond right away.
Specifically?
Well,
what should you say in response is my question.
What we should say is that in our country, we believe in the dignity of every person. What we should say in our country is that, thank you.
So we should fight for illegal alien transgender prisoners? What? They're not changing, are they, David?
Oh, no. And in fact, I mean, you see, even in purple states like Arizona, Democrats like Katie Hobbs, who are going out there, on the illegal immigration issue and just kicking the voters in the teeth. And, they really have painted themselves into this ideological corner because the people who they've been electing are true believers. And, that one ad, the Democrats knew that it was moving voters. It moved between 2% and 3% of voters from Kamala Harris to Donald Trump. And they can't abandon it because they truly believe that this is the civil rights issue of our times. It's just insane.
Sure. And that ad, the reason it's so effective is because it instantly conveys how ridiculous the left is.
Yeah.
And there's no really escaping it. You see that I guarantee, if Kamala Harris has any decency anywhere within her, she saw that ad and thought, "Oh crap, they got me."
I don't know if she has any decency. I mean, we live in a country where about 1 out of 8 people in women's prisons is a man. That's what the Democrats have done.
Yes.
Even some of the most, how could you be more vulnerable? You're literally caged up with sex offenders, and the Democrats say that this is justice. It's just, it's incomprehensible to most people. In fact, I think it went on this long because most people didn't believe anyone that was that insane.
But unfortunately, the insane population you're referring to that is okay with this, much of it lives within the sound of my voice. We're in the D.C. Radio market, and that brings me to my next topic, which is that we have people in and around Washington, D.C. who are furious at the efficiency and speed of the current Trump administration. They're angry about this. Tell me, what's going on here, David Strom?
Well, what's happening here, and we had indications that this was coming. There was a poll done by the Napolitan Institute, Scott Rasmussen's organization, that showed about almost half of government managers were prepared to resist Trump. Actually, basically not obey orders. We have created an administrative state that thinks that they should run things. They're the technocrats, and they live in this bizarre world where because all they talk to is each other, where they just don't connect with reality anymore. They certainly don't connect with the average American. If you had said that a president like Trump, in fact, I don't know what you thought in 2015, but in 2015 I thought Trump was a joke candidate, and certainly in 2012 when we had Mitt Romney, to go from Mitt Romney to Donald Trump, that is a rebellion against the establishment. People turn to Trump because they see this establishment as fundamentally broken, fundamentally corrupt, and as hating the average American person. And that's because they are corrupt. They do hate us. What is it? 94% of people in Washington, D.C. vote Democrat. It's insane.
Yeah. No, and you're right. I mean, one of the big reasons President Trump gets elected in the first place is because he is so loathed by the establishment that the American people said, we're sending him in. You don't like him? Good. I'm with him. He's on my side. And to your point about 2015, President Trump had flirted with presidential runs a number of times on other parties' tickets in the past. So if I'm being honest with myself, in 2015, I'm just wondering, is that what this is again? And of course, it wasn't. It was something completely different. And I'll give great credit to my late father-in-law, John O'Brien, who for many years said, you know who should be president? Donald Trump. He said that for many years, and he just happened to be ahead of his time. He knew exactly what was coming, and boy, did it come. Hey, David Strom, thank you, sir. Always so good to talk to you. Really appreciate your time today.
My favorite radio host, Vince.
You are the man. Love hot air. Thank you, David.